This is Deborah Johnson for Women at Halftime, and I'm passionate about helping women use their untapped skills, resources, and talents to create their ideal work and lifestyle, making a difference in their second half. Well, hello. How fun that we are here. I'm here with Greg. If you are watching this on video, you are going to get to see both of us today. So this is really
That's
fun.
a frightening thought.
And Greg was just remarking how much younger I look than he is. So for some of you who are not watching the video, you might want to click in. So anyway, I'll accept that. The subject that we have today, and I'm going to get to it very, very soon, is when is enough? And if you are at halftime officially over the age of 40, which comes quicker than we all imagine, sometimes we start asking these questions about different areas of our life. And so I'm going to have us both kind of ad-lib on this a little bit. Greg always has a lot of wisdom and actually a little bit of humor to add on. And so it's kind of a fun one to do, fun subject for us.
Well, now everybody can see that I am definitely over 40 and that you're stretching it to really speak on this subject.
But, and give me a stage because I'll even look younger because I'm farther away. So, but it's great. But anyway, great subject that we're going to approach. As this airs, which will be the end of June, I will be having a pre-launch very soon for my new book called The Summit, Journey to Hero Mountain. Very fun allegory. So you want to watch for that and make sure you get on my email list that comes out. There's an article that comes out with every single podcast show. So make sure you're on that because you'll get it each week. So, isn't that fun? So, well, Greg, say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
That's usually how I have you start on our recorded ones. So, but we're going to hit some areas and kind of see where we go today, but they're great subjects. And when is enough? It's a high searched term as well, people wondering. So that's why I know it's a good one for us to approach. But in work, in recreation, relationships, maintenance, which is like your home and your money and your and money principles, finances, and exercise, and then our spiritual lives. So that's a lot to cover in one. We'll see how much we get to today. We're going to kind of maybe skim the surface, but maybe we'll have some other episodes here. So, but let's talk about work. Because our work is a little bit different right now, both Greg and I, although Greg works a lot in some different areas. But I don't think I ever want to quit work, but how much is enough? Enough. And for those of you who love your work, should you ever shut it down? So what are some of your opinions? I'm going to let you talk because I've had a lot of coffee.
Well, Deb and I have talked about this for probably decades. Back when I was doing public speaking, one of the topics that I addressed was putting a lid on your dreams. Mm-hmm. And what that meant was there's an awful lot to accomplish during life. If you think about it, we need to get an education. You need to successfully work enough to gain enough to retire. You need to raise kids and drop them off to society as functional adults. You need to keep care of your health. It doesn't do any good to work your brains out, saving them for retirement and die the day after you retire. Who you become along the way matters, because if you work all your life, put together a successful career, and then become somebody nobody wants to live with, that's not very healthy.
Right.
So this whole thing was kind of all encompassing. Right. And if you only have a dream in one area of life, there's a likelihood that you're going to mess up the other areas of life.
Right.
And you guys can probably come up with thousands of illustrations of people who work themselves to death, who or were so busy recreating and maintaining their health
Right.
that they weren't worthwhile at work.
Right.
People who drank themselves out of a great career.
Right.
You know, you got to figure out your dreams and maintain
Mhm.
balance through everything.
Right.
And so when we talk about when is enough,
Mm.
we're really talking about maintaining life balance
Mhm.
throughout your lifetime.
Right.
So
Right.
that's where we're going with
Right.
this talk.
Yeah. I remember my high school choral music teacher and with our madrigal group and everything, Mr. Schmidt. He's a wonderful man. He had a fake hand and it was like so cool. He was an amazing director. But literally a year after he retired, we did this big retirement party for him after we were all in college and all of that. He was gone. It was it.
Yep.
It was like that was so much a part of his life. And that's not what, why I want to keep working. It's just that I have found something at my halftime of life that I absolutely love and that I feel like I can keep doing.
Right.
And I'm varying it a bit in my work so we can do more travel.
But you're adopting, and part of your working at halftime is
Right.
adopting your life balance so that you can work remotely.
Exactly. Exactly.
That you maintain a tight schedule so you're getting enough exercise in, you're maintaining your spiritual life. So you're doing all the things we're talking about here.
Right.
And probably everything we're talking about here is really what drives women at halftime.
Right. Yes, because you want to be fulfilled,
right?
But yet you want freedom.
Exactly.
And many times you want to be able to now finally do that job that or the dream job, or go for it, but you're a little scared. So that's why I suggest that side business and kind of keep going on that. But really, this is the perfect time to start developing that with your work that you were really going to enjoy. Because I know I can keep, as long as people read what I write or that sort of thing. I mean, I can keep writing a long time. And I'm not really planning to live over 100, but I just did an interview with a lady that has a TV show. She's in her, by the time this airs, you will have heard it, the Pink Lady. So you'll know who that is. But, she's in her late 80s and like 89th year right now. She's producing a TV show. She says she's booked until 100. That's just so great. But she's doing what she absolutely loves to do, and that she's really good at it. So that's the fulfillment in our work, and that's what we want to be able to focus on. So, well, let's kind of get past that and go to recreation. When is enough? I don't know if there's too much recreation.
Well, I think if you start with the idea of where the word comes from, to recreate means to recreate.
Yes.
So it's a restorative thing.
Yes.
And unless you're really good at snow skiing and going to turn it into a profession, or you're really good at yoga and teaching and you're going to turn it into a profession, recreation should be something that restores you and makes you more available for work, family, friends. So if you keep that in mind, that's a good way to put parameters on recreation.
Right.
That it's functional. It's supposed to help you get somewhere.
Right.
So, if you play, 6 games of full court basketball in your 50s and expect to be up and fresh the next day,
which you have done, by the way.
The next day at 6, you are probably going to be challenged.
Yes.
And yes, I am speaking from experience. So take it from me. Remember, recreation is not necessarily meant to be the next hurdle. It's meant to be something that keeps you in the game.
Yes. And as we realized, we were just talking actually earlier today, because we were talking a little bit about this episode, and that you are not really the normal when it gets to recreation, because, and we'll get to this in the exercise section, but you're a former pro athlete. So your expectations, even in some of your recreation, as we go through is enough. You want to be great, and you want to be, all of this with even some of our recreational sports. But we went. What did we do? Cross country. What was it? The snowshoeing. That's what it was. Had a great time, but we both did the levels that we wanted to do.
Yeah,
so it worked really, really well. But when is enough is as long as the body moves. I think we, just should have.
Well, and that's part of the point of recreating, especially, after halftime, is keeping your body functional.
Right.
So, stretching, light strength training, and consistency.
Right. And we'll get to that exercise because that's really important, a subject to really talk about. Because
and one of the things about games is that it's not as boring as just stretching or lifting weights.
Yes.
You're getting exercise while, having your mind distracted.
Yes.
So if you can make a game out of anything, it's generally more fun than just training.
I do that in making a game out of new habits and making a game board. And I just, I just make it fun for yourself a little bit and give yourself some awards and stuff.
But remember that recreation's important. It's just, it can't, it just, just like eating, it can't go overboard and become something you do in and of itself.
Right. And overtake completely. So, well, good. Well, we've gotten to work and recreation. Let's talk about relationships now. And when is enough? And when do you have enough friends or enough contacts and enough all of that? You tend to be the extrovert, and I'm more the introvert. Although sometimes that switches around, so I kind of crave interaction. But anyway, let's talk about the relationships. Especially, I want to talk about in social media, because sometimes we think we need to have all of these relationships and all of this connection and with people that are following us and are on our team and are just, but really what I'm looking for in my life at this stage is the honest relationships of feedback, of true relationships that will be the right kind of relationships to give me that sort of honest feedback, to be the type of friends that I can encourage, but that will also encourage me along. And just having those likes and things. Some people have even quit their social media because of that. It's too time consuming to try to, develop all of these. I call them outside relationships. So in your relationships, because you've started to connect with people. I mean, I barely connect with people I've gone to high school with. I mean, it's usually the reunions when everybody gets together again. It's like, oh my gosh, that's you. But you're like playing golf with those people because you were like,
but it was a unique aspect of my growing up.
Right.
I think with regards to relationships are also obviously are to help restore us.
Right.
And the two values of relationships is one, that you get to give input. All of us love to be able to be valued because we gave input. And the other is to get input.
Right.
And just having somebody to help us laugh is worthwhile. Right. Somebody to help us think is worthwhile.
Right.
Somebody who will just listen is worthwhile. And for whatever reason, God made us so that we enjoyed and needed relationships.
Right.
And if you find yourself working so much that you're losing relationships, probably try to, join a gym, join a church, join a meetup, where you're doing an activity that you enjoy, that other people enjoy.
Right.
And that will give you, some centered value in which to meet around.
Right.
But we're just not meant to be alone.
Right. Exactly.
Now, Deb enjoys more alone time than I do.
Focus.
Deb comes up and sort of enjoys relationships as like going to the gas station. She fills back up and then she's good for another 300 miles. I'm kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
I can go for a couple of hours, really focused. I don't want to be bothered by anybody. But then when I look up, I'm ready to talk or at least be around people.
Right.
And Deb always laughs about one of our first dates. I was going to give her my full attention. I just wanted to do it at a bowling alley. And she goes, well, do you want to bowl? I go, no, I just want to hear the noise.
Yeah.
And that's, part of what makes me an extrovert is that just being around people.
Yes.
For me, an energetic thing would be to go to a baseball game with 30,000 of my best friends, not talk to any of them, but just the crowd, is invigorating to me. And so relationships for you will be somewhere between the two of us.
Right.
But you need enough time to help you stay balanced.
Right.
So.
Yeah, definitely. So, and realize that, more relationships doesn't always mean better and all of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of some of my main points. I've kept these weekly happy hour going virtually, and I've cut out some other online meetings just because I needed to focus on my work to get some things done, projects.
And that's not just an introvert thing.
No.
Relationships need to be strategic.
Yes.
Meaning that you don't have time for all of the people you could possibly meet with.
Yes, exactly.
You only have time for ones that are going to be restorative and or you can provide valid and valuable input.
Right.
It doesn't need to be 20.
Yes.
It's probably more like 5.
Yeah. And that's what, these little meetings were doing was I was being able to give input, but also get input. It was so important. And I've given to so many other organizations, but I just felt like I would just be sitting on the sidelines a little bit more. And it wasn't as good at this point.
Yeah.
I will show up when it's live.
Some people that we know, actually a lot of people, seem to measure their value by how many phone calls and or meetings they had in a week.
Right.
As if, having talked to so-and-so and thus and what's his name? If that list was long enough, you had a productive week or you're an important person. I just would hate to be enslaved by something so compulsive.
Right. That's true.
Those meetings really don't matter.
Yeah.
You can't take in that much input and you can't matter to that many people.
Yeah. Unless you're just on a strict sales calls and it's all about numbers.
Yeah,
that's different.
Those aren't relationships.
No, they're not. They're not. So that's a little bit different. So it was some great points on that. And also for those of you who are, listening to this, realizing that everybody's a little bit different in what their needs are.
And hopefully we express that.
Yes. And I understood that when we got married, that we were different, but not totally. We met and married in like 4.5 months. Oh my gosh. Our kids are still going, you did what? So
yeah, thankfully none of them followed in our footsteps.
No, that's good. They're taking their time, a little too much time sometimes, but anyway.
Oh, we may have to edit that.
Oh yeah. Okay. No, want to make sure they're right. So let's talk about maintenance. I went over that one quick.
Let's talk about it.
So the maintenance though is with how much is enough with home and also with finances, because we put the finances in this little bucket. If you own a home, you know how the finances are directly correlated there. But how much is enough? We've done a number of remodels to our home. It's like, okay, do you just keep remodeling and saving, investing, and you are big with part of your career has been, as well as a professional athlete and some other things, speaking and all of that. But you've also been in the financial field. So how much is enough with investing and all of that?
So Debbie and I have been in and around the speaker world most of our lives, and we've heard hundreds of talks on work-life balance. And generally speaking, the things that get covered are work, family, marriage, exercise, and spiritual. And number of years ago, we figured out together that a big part of running a balanced life is maintaining the bills.
Yes.
Keeping the kitchen clean and the laundry done.
Right.
If you want to have people over, the yard should look like you respect people, not and you respect yourself.
Right.
And the surprising thing is, to do all of that, it takes time.
Yes. Yeah.
It just to maintain your bills, to anticipate where you're going to be at financially, to keep the yard in a way that respects others, to keep the kitchen clean, things vacuumed, laundry done, clothes put away, bed made, whatever. We never had a house elf, and it takes time to do it.
Right.
And if somehow you think you're just going to bounce out of bed, brush your teeth, eat breakfast, and hit the road, it's just senseless.
Yes.
So maintenance is a big part of the balance of life.
Right.
It's not necessarily a fun one,
right?
But it's one that maintains your self-respect, and it maintains the respect for others.
Right.
If you're trying to sell yourself as somebody really important at work, and you come home and there's weeds all over your yard, dirty laundry all over your bedroom floor, the dishes in the sink are stacked up, it smells like you haven't vacuumed in weeks, you're not that important at work.
Right. Yeah. And when is enough is also, you get into the perfectionism to where, can kind of go overboard. Like,
good point.
It's a very good point.
Yeah.
Especially, I think, coming from me as
your yard doesn't need to look like a Chinese garden.
No. And I love that, but
your living room doesn't have to look like it's set up to host 20.
Yeah. I had a friend that said, you can have people over just at the last minute. She said, just turn the lights down low and light the candles. Yeah. No one will know.
Right.
It's just a really great clue there.
Although one of Debbie's and our little secret is when we had 3 little boys, we lived by Phyllis Diller's line that to clean the house while the children are growing is like shoveling snow while it's still snowing.
It is.
And so, we get that keeping the house clean can be a challenge.
Yeah.
However, one of the secrets we learned was every 2 weeks to a month, on a Saturday or Sunday, we'd invite people over.
Oh, yeah.
Because what we figured out was we would clean the house.
Yeah. And some people have help with, a housekeeper or whatever, and that's great. But there's still a certain amount that you have to do. There's a certain amount of pickup and all of that, and that you should do. And good habits.
But it's weird. We picked up from Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Work Week, this lesson that when you establish a deadline, none of us were going to do anything until it gets urgent.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's incredible how much you can get done in a short period of time as soon as it becomes urgent. Yes. And that's what inviting people over does.
And having young kids. Okay, so these are funny stories. I've had friends, we've gone over to their house. Where are the dirty dishes? Oh, they're in the oven. Oh, don't look there. Where's the laundry? Oh, it's in the dishwasher. Don't look there. I mean,
right. So we weren't the only ones.
No, we were not the only ones. So that's pretty funny. So let's talk about really quick.
Okay.
This could be a really long episode otherwise. But let's talk about money a little bit. When is enough? Because at a certain point, that's a whole episode.
after I give you, $20 for the week, that's enough.
Yeah, right. Oh, everybody's going to go. They're going to turn this off. No, but the principle of money, people are afraid they're going to run out at a certain stage. But I think when you have advised people, you say, if you have invested right and have saved correctly, you should be able to go through a lot of those years. And what if we do live to 100? Well, our investments, our home, all of the other things that we have and that we've been careful about, we've never spent a whole lot of money at one time, then we've lived under that budget. But unless you have a huge, catastrophe, and a lot of people have had to start completely over.
Sure.
And I understand that, but when are you going to feel like enough is enough?
It's an interesting topic because if you think about the history of mankind, and we're speaking about America.
Yes.
But pretty much when Deb and I were kids, through the 60s and 70s, our families lived paycheck to paycheck.
Oh, yeah.
So working next week really mattered because it brought food, paid the bills, and kept us going.
Right.
And if you think about the history of mankind, mankind's preoccupation was how to survive today.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really only been since the 1990s in America that people somehow feel like a job is an entitlement. So where I'd like for you to start is when you think about is enough, start with how much do I need to keep it going every month?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't really need all the stuff beyond that,
right?
To keep two boats harbored somewhere,
right?
To have a fourth luxury car,
mm-hmm.
To maintain a lease on a Bentley.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the easiest ways to do this is a lot of financial planners said create a budget. I learned really early that that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is go back over your last 4 or 5 months of expenditures, detail every one of them, and then categorize them. And that will tell you what your budget is. Just because you haven't written it down yet doesn't mean you don't have one.
Right.
And include your credit card debt, and then figure out how long did it take you to get that credit card debt.
Right.
So, if you've got $6,000 in credit card debt that took you 12 months to get there, you have a budget that is $500 a month beyond, what you're making.
Right.
So you write all this stuff down, and let's say you come up with that you need $7,000 a month to make it month to month. Okay, then that is your enough.
Right.
And there's a lot of freedom that comes when you understand what your number is. Maybe it's 6,000 a month.
Yeah.
It's up to you. Living in America, your enough isn't much more than 8,000 a month.
Right.
Now, you probably may have capacity to make more than that, but you need to differentiate between what was enough and what I'm enjoying.
Right.
And when you get those two straight, then if you need to cut back on time, when to cut back, and where. So
great principle. In fact, in the article that I write along with this, I think I'm going to include a free download of the default budget. Now, we worked together on this in my stuck is not a 4-letter word on about a default budget. And so I'll just put that as a free download. But it's really helpful to go through all of those steps. And it's helped me in my business and about everything, thinking, I don't really need that. I don't need that sort of program at this point. I don't want to be so encumbered. And so if we have too much, and right now we're looking, a lot of people want to kind of downscale a little bit,
Sure.
because they don't want to be so encumbered and take care of more. We're on a larger property, but I love it here. Of course, as writers, it's a perfect place, being able to have a big yard, but a lot of people don't want to be encumbered by that anymore, and all the maintenance and
Sure.
all the money it takes.
Lowering your encumbrance on housing allows you to spend money on recreation or travel or things like that.
Yes.
So, but you got to figure out what your number is.
Yes. Figure out the number. Right. Well, let's move on because again, we could spend a whole week on each one of these, I think. Right. But we want to get real quick into our exercise and spiritual, which are both important. But the exercise, we've touched a little bit on recreation, because
I think the main thing we want to touch on is that you're trying to maintain functionality.
Yes.
So you want to be able to walk upstairs. You want to be able to get out of a chair.
Right.
You want to be able to walk without your back hurting.
Right.
It'd be nice if your endurance lasted throughout the day.
Right.
So diet probably fits in there somewhere.
Yes.
But exercise with an end in mind, that you're trying to stay functional.
Right.
You don't need to be trying to figure out how to be an Olympic high jumper at this stage. You don't need to be able to unload concrete the way you used to in your 20s.
Yeah. Yes. And I think this is where you mentioned that you were a little bit different as a former professional athlete on your exercise too.
Yeah, I have to intentionally throttle it back because I've got built-in memory sets that take me here.
Yes.
And A, I don't need to be there, and B, my body is taking a lot longer to recover.
It is.
Like a couple of weeks ago, I worked out legs, and it was just what I thought was a normal leg day.
Yeah.
And it was 2 days before I could really walk again. Yeah. And I spent a lot of time stretching, using a massage gun, hydrating. Yeah. And the reality is I just don't recover as fast as I used to.
And you really come from, you were pretty elite athlete working at the level that you were working. So and we're talking about, when most are listening to this, they are not elite athletes, and they may not go through that much because it's a mindset. Now, I don't push my body like that.
Well, and when we talk about mindset, that's why I'm talking about functionality.
Yeah.
Have that as your mindset.
Right. That's a really good part of that. And I think,
and we're both finding yoga, not only for stretching, but for balance and strength.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you got to do some resistance training. So
he's big on me for resistance, but also for the weights and everything too. But also I need the cardio. I love the cardio.
Yes.
That's why I do that.
Keep your cycle.
Stamina up. My stamina and my breath.
Right.
And so, but adding in that yoga and I like a guide. Usually, it's helpful for me to be pushed even for someone on a screen somewhere.
Right.
Let's talk about spiritual, and that's how we'll head this up.
So we were tempted to put spiritual at the front to highlight it and somehow make it important, but we're putting it at the end for the same reason. Mm-hmm. If you crowd out the spiritual in pursuit of work, recreation, relationships, you got to ask yourself, am I really bringing to those relationships and to work the person that I really want to be? The spiritual increases your quality of personhood over time. Won't do it in a week, won't do it in a month, but over time, just like all your other compound principles, paying attention to your spiritual life and balance makes you a person that's worthwhile bringing to any situation.
Right.
And so we wanted to kind of end with that and make that the point of the spirit as we end this.
Right. And for us, with the balance of our lives, enough is enough. And as people, they start thinking about this more, and, everybody's going on the same train here. Okay. So we're all headed up in the same plane. We all came out of the womb and we're all going back to the same place, under the ground. But you wonder, okay, is that all there is? So people start thinking about spiritual a little bit more, especially not just at halftime, but beyond a little more. You get
especially as your parents die, you realize that you're next on the conveyor belt.
Yeah, and we both came to that realization when we lost both sets of parents. Yeah. It was like, oh, we're next, so we're the matriarchs, patriarchs. So, but really keeping that in balance and the mindset in balance, and how, I spend a time with devotion, both of us do, devotional each day, and how it's important to just have a nice focus, no matter what you use. We tend to be people of faith,
and in the same way you want to be a lifelong learner. I think we both are encouraging you to be growing every day in your knowledge of God.
Right. Yes. I think that's a really good point.
Seems like a great way to end life. If you ended life that day, growing in your knowledge of God, and the next thing you know, you're meeting him.
I call it a graduation. Actually, a friend of ours always called it a graduation. I kind of stole it from him, but he says, "Oh, such and such graduated." So I just love that.
Another way to think about it is we're called to many things through life, but one day there will be one last call.
Yes.
And it's the call home.
One last call. That's right. So as you start and end. So what a fun episode this. Well, I always enjoy it. Greg and I are on together once a month, and I'm trying to add up my game a little bit in our podcasts to be able to add video. And there are people that watch these videos, and all they're watching is a still. And I'm thinking, oh no, they need to, this is fun, So hopefully this is our first one we've done together.
Yeah, hopefully we haven't scared too many people off.
Yes.
And everybody's wondering, why did she marry such an old man?
No, you look very, very handsome. Isn't that great? Look at if you're watching this, you see how his little jacket matches his hair. It's perfect. Okay. So I won't get into that too much. We talked about work, recreation, relationships, maintenance, exercise, and spiritual. That's a lot to talk about. And we will hit, I'm sure, in some coming shows that we'll hit some of these again. Next week, please join me. I will be talking about a hybrid world with diversify. I'm not talking about, with all of our segments of our populations. I'm talking about diversifying your business and your income, and how important that is especially at the halftime of life, in diversify. It brings freedom, a lot of freedom. And as we talked about with our work, I can take off, go, oh, yeah, I'll be gone 3 or 4 days. Everything's automated, so that's the place I've wanted to be at this point. And I'm loving what I'm doing. I've got a lot of product. So anyway, please listen, subscribe, womenathalftime.com. So much fun to be with you every day, to listen, subscribe, share with your friends. Make sure you sign up also on the mailing list. On all of those pages, there's an area so you can get the weekly article. And Greg and I will look forward to being with you next month together, and I'll look forward to being with you next week. So again, thanks again for being with us today, Greg and Deborah Johnson, or Debbie Johnson, whatever. We will see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye for now. Thank you for joining us on Women at Halftime. Visit goalsforyourlife.com or womenathalftime.com for many more resources, downloads, and programs, or to get in touch with me. I'd love it if you leave me a review and tell your friends. So until next time, this is Deborah Johnson, signing off.